Assalamualaikum friends, I am Areeb Rashid and welcome to the Scientific Miracles of Quran episode 13. So in this episode I'll prove that the earth's magnetic field magnetic field is mentioned in Quran 1400 years ago. I'll prove that. So let's begin. In 1600 CE, William Gilbert, a physician, he for the first time ever discovered that the earth has magnetic field because he thought the earth is a giant magnet. He for the first time discovered that the earth has magnetic field. Now, what is Earth's magnetic field? Earth's magnetic field, also known as the geomagnetic field, is the magnetic field that extends from Earth's interior out into space, where it interacts with the solar wind, a stream of charged particles emanating from the sun. So this is the Earth's magnetic field. So now in 600s, William Gilbert for the first time ever proposed that the Earth have the magnetic field. He for the first time said that the Earth is a giant magnet. He published the book De Magnete, which was the first book which contained the idea that the Earth has a magnetic field and the Earth is a giant magnet. He for the first time proposed in that book that the Earth has a magnetic field. The book's name is De Magnete, or it is known as Et de Magno Magnete Teleo. In English, it is known as And on that great magnet, the Earth. This is the English name of the book. The original name is De Magnete, which is in the Latin. He was the first one to argue that the center of the Earth was iron, and he considered an important related property of magnets was that they can be cut, each forming a new magnet with north and south poles. Then later, in around 832 to 833 CE, around at that time, Carl Friedrich Gauss, he for the first time calculated the Earth's magnetic field for the first time. He calculated the Earth's magnetic field through the magnetometer, which he invented. And he was the first one to have ever calculated the Earth's magnetic field. Before that, no one has ever calculated that how strong is the Earth's magnetic field. Because the compass were already invented way before than William Gilbert was born. So people always thought that why does the compass point to the north? Why is it always at the north? So, and then William Gilbert, for the first time in 600, like I said, he was the first one who have ever come up with the idea of the Earth's magnetic field, and he himself said that the Earth is a magnet. So, this was the reason that he, for the first time, he told to everyone that the compass point to the northward because the Earth has a magnetic field, and Earth itself is a giant magnet. And then in 1840, again in 1840, Carl Friedrich Gauss, he, for the first time ever, he said that the terrestrial magnet is at the center of the Earth. But it is mentioned in the Quran 1400 years ago, in the 7th century, in 600s. It is mentioned in Quran about the Earth's magnetic field. 1400 years ago. For example, in Quran, Surah Anbiya, chapter number 21, verse number 32, which says, وَجَعَلْنَا السَّمَاءَ سَقْفًا وَمَحْفُوظًا وَهُمْ عَنْ آيَاتِهَا مُعْرِضُونَ. So let me translate it. And we rendered the sky a guarded ceiling, yet they are totally oblivious to all the portents therein. Let me repeat the main words here. And we rendered the sky a guarded ceiling. So this is the key word here. So how could a human living in the 7th century, 1400 years ago, in the desert of Arabia, could have known that the sky is a guarded ceiling? It is guarded by God. It is protected by God. How could a human living in the desert of Arabia 1400 years ago would have known that? Of course, a human can't say. How could a human living 1400 years ago in the 7th century could even have thought that the earth has a magnetic field? It is protected by sun. Actually, the magnetic field protects the sun rays. If there was no magnetic field, we would have died. The sun rays, the sun's blazing heat rays would have killed us if there was no magnetic field. So how could a human living 1400 years ago in the 7th century could have known that the sky is a guarded ceiling? Of course, no one has ever said. You can check the history. You can search any book in the history of the 7th century. None scientific book has ever mentioned that the sky is a guarded ceiling. So why is it that only in the Quran it is mentioned in the 7th century that the sky is a guarded ceiling? Did the Quran copy from other books? Of course it can't, because there wasn't any book in the 7th century which mentioned that the sky is a guarded ceiling. There was no book. So of course it again proves that the Quran is the word of God. The magnetic field plays an important role protecting the earth, and it protects every life forms on earth, including animals, including us. If there was no magnetic field of the earth, we would have died, because the sun rays are so, actually they are very hot. They have very heat, they could have killed us. but because the Earth's magnetic field protects us from the blazing heat rays of the sun. So how could a human living in the desert of Arabia 1400 years ago, in the 7th century, in 600s, could have known that the earth is that the sky is a guarded ceiling? Of course a human can't say, because there's none science book of 7th century that mentions that the sky of the earth is a guarded ceiling. You can check Bible too, you can check any book, any religious book. None book mentions that, only Quran. Now don't say that it is a guess or it's a guesswork. I've already shown 12 miracles of Quran. Are they all coincidence? Of course they can't be coincidence. So how could a human living in the 7th century could have guessed even that? A human can't even guess this kind of phenomenon, that the earth could have magnetic field. It's just impossible to guess when the people at that time, they didn't even knew what is the sky. They didn't even travel into the space. They thought that this is the only sky. The blue sky is the only sky we see. The stars, there's nothing beyond stars. That was their belief. Because in some century, no one has ever went to the space. So how could a human even? But even if you go to the space, you won't know that the earth has magnetic field. It's just the gravity plays an important role of the magnet. So, of course, a human living in the 7th century, way before William Gilbert and way before Carl Friedrich Gauss, they weren't even born in 7th century. Way before them, a millennium before they were born, the Quran is mentioning the Earth's magnetic field. So, of course, a human can't say that. It's clearly from God, from Allah. He revealed this Quran to Prophet Muhammad 1400 years ago in the 7th century. So now I have proved that the Quran is the word of God. I have proved that the Quran mentions that the earth has magnetic field. So I'll see you with my next Scientific Miracles of Quran episode. Allah Hafiz.